Hello and welcome to day 10. Today is workout 1D. So check out the workouts, make sure you understand all of the exercises, see if you need to make any adjustments or swaps, and then get in the gym and crush it. As per usual, with today being a workout day, we are also going to dive deeper into an exercise. We are focusing on biceps today, one of my favorite staple biceps exercises. So let's get into the specific exercise first. I'll break it down for you, tell you what you should be focusing on and how to get the most out of this exercise. And then we'll get a little bit more in depth in bicep training in general. So check out this video. Okay, so today's exercise is the dumbbell curl, just a good old bread and butter staple for building up the biceps. We'll touch on this a little bit more later, but I really like this exercise because it allows you to focus not only on contracting the bicep by bending the arm up, but also on supinating the wrist, rotating the wrist up as you come to the top portion of the movement, allowing you to get a peak contraction and maximizing both functions of the biceps. So you'll notice here, I'm focusing on controlling the weight. There's very little body momentum or swinging going along in the set, especially for the majority of the repetitions. If you need to get a couple cheat reps in at the end, that's fine, but this should only be on the last rep or two. Everything else should be focusing on control. The negative, as any exercise, I'm taking about twice as slow as I am on the positive portion of the repetition. You'll also notice the cadence that I'm doing these curls with, and how you do these is up to you. I prefer to do 4 or 5 on one arm, then switch to the other arm and do 4 or 5 before going back and finishing the set on one side and then the other. If I do all the reps on one side before switching to the other, then by the time I get to my other arm, my grip is fatigued and I don't get as much out of that arm. If I alternate arms, then I feel like each arm isn't able to develop a full pump because it's getting the chance to relax for too long between training the other arm. Again, you can find which method works for you, alternating, doing both arms together, or doing a cadence similar to mine. That is completely up to you. This is what I feel works best for me though. So you'll notice that I am rotating the wrist up, called supinating, up towards the top, and then slowly allowing my wrist to come back to neutral as I get down to the starting point again. This is crucial to make sure you get a peak contraction and a peak stretch on this exercise. Once you get to the point where you're unable to do any more clean repetitions, if you only have 1 or 2 left, this is where you squeeze out a few with some body momentum as shown here to finish off. All right, so if you have any further questions on the dumbbell biceps curl, feel free to leave a comment down below and I would be happy to answer that question. But for now, let's dive a little bit more in depth into biceps training and how to get the most out of it, what exercises are best, and all of that good stuff. So let's start off with the basics. So what is the function of the bicep? Basically, the function of the bicep is to curl the forearm up towards the upper arm or the biceps area and to supinate and pronate the wrist. So the wrist, supinated, basically just means palm up, pronated means palm down. So it's part of the function of the bicep to rotate the palm up and then obviously to stretch and raise the arm from straight to bent. The easy way to remember supination that I've heard a lot of people use before is think of it how you would have your hand if you were holding a cup of soup. Supinated. You wouldn't be holding your soup like that, the steam would come up and burn your hand. This is one of the reasons I like dumbbell curls so much, is this allows you to focus on both movements, not only the bending and extending of the arm, but also the supination of the wrist as you curled up, as I demonstrated in the video. This is also why the 6-week blueprint to living art in any of my blueprint trainers, we make sure to hit the biceps along every single plane of motion with this, doing positions where our wrists are pronated the entire time, are supinated the entire time, and rotate from pronation to supination. So we're really strengthening the bicep along every single one of those planes of motion and those movement patterns. Another thing to think about with the biceps is the different angle of training. And this basically is the starting position of your elbow relative to the body. Now, if you're doing any sort of preacher curl or concentration curl movement, you'll notice that your elbow would actually be set up in front of your body. So if I turn to the side here, if I'm doing a preacher curl movement, I'm actually starting with the back of my arm resting on a pad, and therefore my elbow is going to be in front of my body. Now, if I'm doing any sort of standing straight up, dumbbell, barbell, or cable curl, then my elbows are going to be down at my side at the start of the movement. If I'm doing any sort of incline curl, where I'm actually leaning back against an incline bench, my elbows are actually going to be behind my body at the start of the movement. So these different angles are important things to consider, and this is why I have different exercise selection exactly how so through the Blueprint to Living Art, to make sure that we are, again, strengthening and training the biceps to maximally develop it through all angles. And we touched on this a little bit with the exercise demonstration video, but again, I want to stress the importance of not using too much weight and too much momentum. While there is a time and place after you reach failure with strict form curls, doing a few extra cheat repetitions where you allow a little bit of body momentum to come into play and then focus on controlling the negative, that is all fine and great to incorporate on occasion. However, if by rep number 2 or 3, you find yourself swinging your body and your elbow moving around dramatically, then you are using too much weight and you are lifting with your ego. Biceps are a relatively small muscle compared to things like chest, back, or legs, so it's important to keep that in consideration when you're training the muscle. Remember, this is bodybuilding. This isn't just about moving the weight from point A to point B. This is about getting a stretch, a contraction, and isolating and feeling every inch of the range of motion in the targeted muscle. This is something I have to catch myself doing sometimes as well, as with biceps, I can actually use very controlled, good-looking form on the outside with heavy weight. But once I get to a certain point, I start to lose that mental mind-to-muscle connection in the biceps. And even though my exercise form might look perfect on the outside, I'm not able to get that deep burn and pump that I would if I went a little bit lighter. This is how I know when I'm ready to progress in weight. As soon as I go up in weight, if I lose that connection to the biceps, I know it's too heavy and I'm not ready to go up to that weight yet. If I still feel that deep burn and am able to build a good pump in the set, then I know that's when I'm ready to move up in weight. Again, don't lift with your ego on this. As strong as Arnold Schwarzenegger, for example, was on bicep curls, he used to do barbell curls with 275 pounds for cheat curls. That's a fantastically huge amount of weight. But what he normally did was use around 40 to 45 pound dumbbells for curls, as stated by a lot of his training partners back in those days. It's all about the form, the technique, and the feel in the muscle. The weight and repetitions with progressive overload will come with time, but be patient and focus on really developing that feel and connection first and allowing the strength and weight to follow. Lastly, if you are having trouble with the mind to muscle connection, especially if you're relatively new to this, in between sets of bicep exercises, practice some isotension holds where you're actually holding a flex in the 90-degree position with the arm. You can also push down on the wrist with the other arm to create extra tension and practice holding that flex and squeezing the biceps as hard as you can. This doesn't mean that you have to be a goofball and cut in front of other people in the dumbbell rack area, standing in front of their bench while they're trying to get a set of shoulder presses and hitting front double biceps. Trust me, I see a lot of people do this. Usually it's the skinnier population who doesn't look like they even lift, and it's just annoying. Not to mention dangerous and distracting to the person trying to get their set in. You can be discreet about it. Posing is important, and it's good to practice in isolation. Just be considerate of others who are actually moving heavy weight and in the middle of a set, as you don't want to become dangerous. So that's going to cover it for today's portion on biceps. As always, again, if you have any questions, comment below. Let me know. I would be happy to help you address any of your concerns and answer any of your questions. But in the meantime, have a fantastic workout today, and I can't wait to see you in tomorrow's video.